travel PR, the overall goal is to promote a place rather than a person or organization. That's the job of Janet Korn, Vice President of Marketing for Experience Grand Rapids.
We have several publics here, which is why our work is not as straightforward as some people might think it is. Our clients, those that we are inevitably looking to communicate with, are meeting planners and potential visitors to the Grand Rapids area. Although we have to speak to many other publics to convince them to come here. So we also speak to the local media, because the local media as a community organization is important for us to help share our job performance. We need the local community to help support almost every convention bid that we put together. We need the local community to step up and help our cultural attractions bring in special exhibitions or continue to improve the destination from a tourism perspective. So communicating locally is also important. And then we have to talk to national media, because people make travel decisions and purchasing decisions from multiple pieces of communication, not just one message, therefore I react. The whole buying behavior of buying travel, tourism, meetings, locations, usually there's multiple audiences and publics that are a part of that decision. We may have to convince a meeting planner, their board of directors, and sometimes their entire membership that gets to make actually like a campaign vote from the floor to choose the location of their next conference. Just 2 weeks ago, or last week, we hosted a conference, the National Association of Active and Federal Employees. That convention was a public campaigning vote. Every attendee at the conference 3 years ago got to put their hand up and say yay or nay, one city versus the other. So that's our number one objective typically, is to convince the planner to take a look at our destination. The number one way for us to convince a meeting planner that they should look further at our destination is to convince them to come here and look at it firsthand. This is a believe it if you see it place. This isn't a fancy photograph or a great YouTube video or some great message or brochure or ad that they see posted somewhere or printed somewhere. This is a place you have to come and experience. We might look for a local community member or even a Michigan resident that is active in that organization, serves on that organization's board of directors, and they jump up and down and get that person's attention so that they would even consider coming here to look at this as a choice for a future conference. We have an entire strategy or program here called Bring It to Grand Rapids. It has its own website, it has its own messaging, and specifically it talks about we need your help to help us bring a meeting here. And so its sole purpose is to recruit people to help us uncover the potential conferences. So it works both ways. Sometimes we find the conference name and then we look for a person. Sometimes we find the person and we ask them what conferences they're connected with. So all of those activities are kind of going on simultaneously until we get something that actually looks like there's a potential fit. Conferences also cycle around the country, so you have to catch them when it's this time where they're willing to consider a Midwest destination, because they might jump from an East Coast to a West Coast to a South to a Midwest. And if we try to book a conference that just met in Milwaukee or will be meeting in Milwaukee the year prior, we probably have a better chance when they will have just come from Albuquerque. Well, there are trade shows that we attend. They're trade shows where the association executives, the meeting planners, they attend those conferences often for educational purposes, but typically there's a trade show component. And the trade show floor is full of all the destinations out there trying to look bright, shiny, and more fun and more exciting and more perfect as a destination for them to choose in the future. So that's one tactic. We use trade advertising in trade publications for the meetings trade. We use electronic newsletters through some of those trade magazines, through our own client database that we have. Any kind of national public relations articles that we can get written on Grand Rapids help us. So when the New York Times front page of the art section talks about Art Prize last year, that's good for us. Because all those people who are sitting at home on a Sunday morning reading the New York Times, they just might happen to be a meeting planner. But when they're reading that paper, they're just John Q. Public reading the paper, and then they go, Grand Rapids, I never knew. Because of social media, because of TripAdvisor, because of Yelp, because of all these things and sources of information which are from real people talking about what it's really like, we wanted to provide a destinations website that took some of the opportunities of all that real, genuine content and brought it to our official marketing content. Last night's event was about announcing that to Grand Rapids, that we have that built now, and actually inviting Grand Rapids to be a part of that communication.
Your support is crucial. Whether you're posting on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, LinkedIn, or Flickr, your contributions advance our cause. Every tweet, post, link, video, and photo shared with our nation and globally conveys a reason to experience Grand Rapids. We have long been known as the Grand Rapids Kent County Convention and Visitors Bureau. This name, however, does not portray our mission accurately or clearly reflect our role in the community. As a key priority in our 4-year strategic plan, the time has come to rebrand the CVB and align the organizational name with its work. The CVB, as you know it now, will now be known as Experience Grand Rapids.
There's lots of ways for us to research when people meet. There's a database that's specific for our industry that we subscribe to that gives us some of that meetings data. We help supply the data, as well as all of the competitive cities that we compete against add the data there. So that's the official database for meetings. So that's where you can tell where they've met before, how big the conference was, and the statistics, if you will, on the conference. Another way that we can gather information is we would hold focus groups in different markets. So last year we went to Chicago, we went to Washington, D.C., and we went to Lansing. And we gathered groups of meeting planners, and some of them were our clients, and some of them we wished were our clients. And we asked them a lot of questions about how they plan their meetings, how they choose their cities, do they read trade publications, do they like to come to cities on site visits, why would they choose one city's invitation over another. And we got a lot of information. And then there's a lot of secondary research that's out there. A lot of the trades publications do surveys of meeting planners. They publish lists of this, lists of that. They interview meeting planners, so there's a lot of secondary information that's out there. So you take the secondary information, you take your primary information, you take the information from the database, and you kind of just put it all together and hope you're knowledgeable. The key measurable we have for organizational success are how many group hotel room nights we contract for within a given calendar year. So we set ourselves a sales goal at the beginning of every calendar year, and then we work towards achieving that goal. Another metric that we look at is hotel occupancy, current hotel occupancy. Current hotel occupancy is reflective of how the destination is doing for visitation, tourism. Another way is our cultural attraction attendance. So when cultural attractions are having good seasons or average seasons, that's reflective of the amount of people traveling within our community. And then we work in partner with Travel Michigan, our state's tourism office, and they track data from a statewide perspective that's using state tax dollar collections being paid into the state treasury and a few other factors, and they come back and tell us how many people were traveling in Kent County and what the dollars were that were spent here. So get to know some of the social media that are out there today and be active there, even if it's just from a following perspective, just to kind of understand how they work. It's interesting to me, those that know Facebook, but that's all they know. So know something besides Facebook, whether it's Twitter, TripAdvisor, Yelp, YouTube, Flickr. There's some new ones, Foursquare, Scavenger, QR codes. There's a lot of stuff out there. You don't have to know everything, but you might want to know some of those things. The other thing I think that people sometimes don't spend as much attention to that they should, and that is communication. And that's the written communication, but also the verbal communications. There's so much information out there now, you have to get to the point. And you have only just a short, brief moment to say what you mean. So you have to teach yourself and learn to get to the point.